sige na nga, dahil shadow ba naman ako, sige magkukwento ako. Naranasan nyo na ba yung may naririnig kayo na parang tunog ng batang naglalaro sa bahay nyo or sa kwarto nyo ng alas 3 ng madaling araw? So, ayan. Kinuwento lang sa akin to ng nanay ko. Meron daw siyang naramdaman na parang palagi daw naglalaro sa kwarto niya. Like alas 3 ng madaling araw yun. So, yung tunog ng paglalaro ng bata is yung, alam niyo yung may naglalaro sa sahig. Siyempre, madaling araw. So, mas rinig mo, di ba? Katabi ni Mama si Stella tsaka si Sian. So, chinek niya. Naalimpungatan daw talaga siya as in nagising siya. Na sabi niya, bakit may bata naglalaro? So, sinilip niya yung dalawa kong gising. Tapos nakita niya, tulog na si Sian tsaka si Stella. Tapos, patay yung ilaw lahat sa kwarto niya. So, pinapakiramdaman niya kung sino kaya yun. Kasi sa sahig daw talaga yung tunog. Like, parang laruan ni Primo. Yung laruan niya, plastic, ganyan. Tapos yung tunog ng ganun sa sahig. Tapos gumaganon pa. Siyempre, di ba, rinig na rinig yun kasi tiles. So, pinapakiramdaman niya lang. Tapos, chinek niya yung oras. Nagulat siya, alas 3 na. Akala nga daw niya, nananaginip siya na nandun si Primo, naglalaro. Tapos, ako, sabi ko, ako naman, wala naman ako nafe-feel dyan sa kwarto mo. Pero, kung naalala niyo yung nagkwento ko about dun sa UP Theater, netong week lang ata yun, nandun ako sa kwarto ni Mama nun. And nagkataon na habang nag-story time ko, horror din yun Habang nag-horror story time ako nun, naabutan talaga ako ng gabi kasi patay yung ilaw sa hallway nun. Tapos, hindi ko na namalaya na sobrang dilim na pala sa labas. Ang bukas na ilaw ko lang nun, yung isang phone ko, yung flashlight nun. Yun yung ginagamit kong pang ilaw sa mukha ko habang nag-video ako dito. So, ayun. Sabi ko, pero actually nung nag-story time na ako dyan, sabi ko, nung naabutan ako na patay lahat ng ilaw, tas hindi ako agad makatayo sa kama. Hindi ko rin alam kung dahil ba, paano ko ba explain? Alam niyo yung feeling na parang gusto mo namang tumayo, gusto mong kumilos, pero parang ang bigat ng katawan mo. Tapos wala akong kasama sa kwarto. Bukas lang yung pinto. So, kitang-kita yung hallway. And then yung katapat na pinto nun, ito na yung kwarto namin. So, ayun, sabi ko na lang, pero so far, wala naman ako nararamdaman. Like, kaya ko ngang magstay ng mag-isa sa sala ng patay lahat ng ilaw dun. Or even sa 3rd floor, never naman ako nakaramdam. Not until nung kinwento ni Mama yun sa akin. Parang kahapon lang yata kinwento. So, parang bigla ako nakrepian. Kaya kanina, tsaka kagabi din, nahuli ako umakyat ng kwarto. So, ako yung nagpatay lahat ng ilaw sa sala. Tapos parang may weird feeling na sa likod ko na parang feeling ko may nakatingin. Parang gano'n. But again, so far, wala naman ako na-feel. And wala naman ako nasi-sense na katulad talaga like, diba nga, kaya ko naman or nakakakita naman ako dati. So, di ko alam. Baka guni-guni lang. Diba, sobrang casual lang ng pagkukwento ko para hindi naman din sobrang nakakatakot kasi ako ngayon, ewan ko ba itong pregnancy ko ngayon, matatakotin din ako. Buti na lang, wala rin ako masyadong na-experience na nakakatakot lately.
Ay, meron akong ghost story sa Cheron. Legit, sobra. Tangina. First encounter ko to ng multo. May nagagawa kasi sa bahay namin. Kami noon, mag-outing kami. Marinduque, ganun. Di shopping kami sa festival, no. May yaya kami noon. Siya lang naiwan.
Si Jera?
Hindi. Yung yaya.
Sa bahay nyo?
Tapos pag uwi namin, yun agad bungad ng yaya kay mami. Takot na takot, pre.
Ano sabi?
May multo ba dito sa bahay niyo? Parang ganun.
Bakit?
So sabi niya mami, wala. Di yung sinabi, wala daw, wala. Kabi. Kasi kanina, naguhugas akong pinggan, may tumatakbo sa likod ko Bata, pre. Chichills ako, pre.
That's crazy.
Tapos yun, nagulat kami. Ay namin, nagsusukat kami ng mga ng mga damit. Nakabrief lang ako nun, pre. Nakikinig sa story, Tapos ulan niya, titig kami. Kakwentuhan sila ni mami. Ay, baka naman mo lang yun, naaninag mo lang yun. Hindi ate, totoo talaga. Naghuhugas akong pinggan kanina. Pagkatapos ng kwentuhan na yun, biglang nag-on yung washing machine, pre. Biglaan. Ang washing machine pa namin nun.
Dipindot talaga.
Hindi dipindot. Yung tiga ganun. Pagka gumagano'n yung washing machine sa likod. Si mami na mismo yung natakot, pre.
Anong ginawa?
Bible, dinasalan yung likod namin.
Anong?
Ko, pre.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Sobra, men. Agad ano ako nun. Wala, Hindi ako nakatulog agad nun, pre.
Nakakatindig ba lang? Ako nga, goosebumps nga ako ngayon eh.
Pre, isipin mo, manual na machine.
Oo nga eh.
Hindi yung
Tas biglang-
tipindot namin sa baba kasi parang ang crazy pa nun. Hindi ko kasi alam kung nakasaksak o hindi eh. Tapos biglang gumanon yung yaya. Ala, ito yung washing machine, mandar. Paiyak na pre. Ay, karamdam mo yung boses niya sa akin, takot.
Takot niya. Eh di yan, ginawa nung katulong na niya pagkatapos umalis na.
Hindi naman. Parang napaalis din ni mami. Parang napakalma din yung kasi dinasalan niya agad.
Did you know that there's an abandoned village in Connecticut that is so cursed and haunted and terrifying that it is illegal to go into it? Well, kind of. Legend has it that Dudleytown, which is the ruins of a village in a forest that is north of New York City in a place called Cornwall, is haunted by demons, ghosts, and there's been countless mysterious disappearances there. And this allegedly all happened because of a curse that befell the Dudley family. Our story starts with Henry VIII, historical supervillain and the first person to coin the power stance in portraits. In 1510, a guy called Edmund Dudley was beheaded for his part in a plot to overthrow the king, which was seen as not a very nice thing to do. There was, of course, some political back and forth. The family didn't seem to learn from this, and there were other members of the family who were beheaded for various plots to overthrow kings. And as a result, the Dudley curse was born. In 1747, hundreds of years later, Gideon Dudley purchased some land that was in the hollow of 3 hills. It was a forested area. It was really dark. The forest was thick and dense, and he built his little house, and thus Dudleytown was born. It's important to note at this point that the land on which Dudleytown was built was part of the Mohawk tribe's land, and according to sources it says that it was a sacred space, a sacred site for them. I don't particularly know what that entails, but I thought it was important to note. It seems that the peak number of families that lived there was around 26, and many of those families were Dudleys. And here's the thing. Terrible things started to happen. In 1792, a man called Gershon Hollister, who lived next door to Abel Dudley, he was murdered. Abel Dudley subsequently seemed to go insane, and he spoke incessantly of shadowy creatures that lived in the tree line and emerged from the forest, and those shadowy creatures were going to be the downfall of all of the residents of Dudleytown. Another resident, William Tanner, also spoke of these shadowy creatures, these things that lived in the forest. They were at one with the forest, they sort of blended into the darkness, and they were dangerous. A strange sickness, some sort of plague, swept through Dudleytown in the 1800s, and one of the families, the Carters, had lost family members in this plague, and they decided that was enough. They were leaving. They moved to the Delaware wilderness in order to start a new life. However, they got into a brutal and vicious standoff with some Native Americans, the result of which was the death of the parents and one of the children, and 3 of the children were taken away by the Native Americans to Canada. And the list goes on. A woman named Sarah Fay was struck by lightning. Her husband went insane with grief and took his own life shortly afterwards. There's a report of 2 children that disappeared into the forest, never to be seen again, and their father, after their home burnt to the ground, also wandered into the forest and vanished, never to be seen again. And the stories go on. And generally these stories talk about people who go insane or take their own lives, wander into the forest, succumb to sickness. Seems like it's a pretty dark place to live. And probably one of the most famous stories is a story from the 1900s. A Dr. Clark was tired of the big city living, and he wanted a retreat for him and his wife Harriet, and he decided that that retreat was going to be in the area of Dudleytown. He knew nothing of the history and wondered why local business people, local builders, wouldn't help him to build his property, so he set about building it himself, and that he did. This is the actual cabin that Dr. Clark built at the edge of the forest, and him and his wife Harriet spent many happy hours there watching the seasons change, until one time he had to leave her to go back to New York for 36 hours, and when he arrived back, Harriet was no longer the same. According to the legend, when Dr. Clark approached the house, She was lying on the floor in the bedroom, curled up in a ball, her eyes wide and blank, her mouth gaping open, and she was laughing this terrifying, maniacal, high-pitched laugh. Dr. Clark had no idea what had happened, but eventually, when she began talking, she also spoke of shadowy creatures that were in and out of the tree line, that emerged from the forest, and that those shadowy creatures were going to get her. Clark set up the Dark Forest Entry Association in 1924, and ever since then, the land has been private property, and many people over the years have been arrested who have entered that private property. Here you can see some of the actual ruins of the buildings in Dudleytown, and if you go there now, you will see some stones, you will see some cellar holes. That's pretty much all that's left of the village of Dudleytown. So here's the thing. There is far more to the cursed town of Dudleytown than I'm able to squeeze into a 10-minute video. So if you want the full version, you can listen to the podcast up there. However, if you want the too long didn't read version, just stay watching. Virtually all of these things are myth. So Dudleytown exists, and it was set up indeed by a family called the Dudleys who lived there. However, they were not connected in any way, shape or form to the Dudleys, who had gotten in some serious trouble in England for trying to overthrow the king. And of course, people died, people got sick in Dudleytown, but not in the ways that are described in the stories. For example, Harriet Clark did indeed take her own life, but it was nothing to do with Dudleytown or creatures in the forest. She had a chronic illness that caused her horrific pain, and in the end, she decided to take her own life rather than endure the pain any longer, which is equally as horrific, if not more horrific. Abel Dudley's neighbour, for example, was not murdered. He fell from a roof rafter and died from his injuries. But these stories have stayed in circulation for years and years and years, to the point where I'm still telling them now. And a part of that is to do, weirdly, with Ed and Lorraine Warren, everyone's favourite paranormal superstar couple. I've got big thoughts and feelings about Ed and Lorraine Warren. They were not good people, but that's for another story for another day. Ed and Lorraine Warren in the 70s did like a Halloween special in Dudleytown where they said it was demonically possessed and it was being controlled by something evil and dark. So all the way back in the 1920s, a man named Edward Starr had written a book called The History of Cornwall, in which he talked about the doom of Dudleytown. And obviously, it's an interesting story. People love a juicy story, so it became like a local legend. And when Ed and Lorraine Warren did their Halloween special, it really cemented the fact that something evil was lurking in those woods. But the interesting thing is that these stories have stuck around, first of all. Second of all, there are lots of reports of people having paranormal experiences in Dudleytown. Like in the 1980s, a film crew went to Dudleytown in order to make a documentary about it. None of their equipment would work. One of the reporters got violently ill when they were trying to tell the story of Dudleytown. People have reported being like slapped in the face, being shoved by unseen forces, and feeling this inexplicable feeling of absolute dread and fear while they were in the ruins of Dudleytown. There are lots of geographical and natural reasons as to why Dudleytown wasn't sustainable as a town or a village. However, that doesn't make it any less creepy. And the reality is, as humans, we never let truth stand in the way of a good story.
This happened during Sec 2 adventure camp. One of my close friends, she started looking very distraught during the camp. She came to me and she said like, I see a girl. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't like this. Let's pray. I really was not whispering. Yeah. Our Lord Savior Jesus Christ. She really looked not okay. Right. So I said, okay, anytime you see her, you just come to me. I will be with you, even though I'm scared also. The next morning, we saw a whiteboard. So we asked the counselor about it. And they told us that year, for that camp, there was a girl who committed suicide in the toilet. So then in my head, I'm like...
counselor very questionable.
Now you just validated that there's a girl, because my friend keeps seeing a girl, right? I woke up to commotion because the toilet door was locked. But when you push, there's something stopping the door from opening. So that's when we knew it ain't locked. Because we kept trying to turn it and it would turn all the way. But once we push, there's a pushback. So we're like, what's going on? At this point, I've sung every praise and worship song possible. And like when the door flung open, my friend ran out. I never see her run so fast in my life. And I immediately ran after her. And then I said, what happened? She said when the door flung open, the girl was on the toilet. You know the toilet stall was like quite high, the door. She was like that on the stall staring right at her and then flew or charged towards my friend.
It's giving Harry Potter.
Moaning Myrtle.
And you know what's the scariest part? When the toilet door opened, right, the floor was full of panty liners.
No way.
Because I'm very close to the girl, the camp counselors told me aside. Then they said, of course have lah. Of course there are ghosts, but we cannot tell you all that what.
What's going on
Then
then?
I'm like, then why you tell me?
TLDR here is that this is a gross mismanagement of a secondary school camp. There's probably nothing. Toilet door was probably just stuck, and then the panty liner is they never clean the toilet properly.
So my original video didn't get tons of views, but I thought I'd still share it anyway. So this is a story about the ghost that was in front of my hotel door in Thailand. So background information about this whole thing. In Sydney, Australia, we have Thai language schools, and I'm pretty sure America has it as well. So one specific Thai school, they do something called homecoming trip, and the homecoming trip is basically sending the Thai kids to the motherland and basically learning the Thai culture, learning about like what makes us Thai, all this jazz. We get to perform there as well. So this takes place when I was in year 5, so I was 10 to 11 years old, and it was my first trip there. So before this whole ghost story happened, something did happen where I was crying, and it was kind of a little bit traumatic at the pool. But basically at 11 p.m. I stopped crying and I went back to sleep. And then around 2 a.m. this mother who was staying like a few doors away from my hotel door, she saw someone crying at like 2 a.m. like someone with black hair in a white dress just crying. So what that Thai mother saw was, you know, a girl sitting like this, hunched over, like against the door with black hair just covering her face. And the mother assumed it was me crying at 2 a.m. So she didn't say anything, she just kind of like closed the door and then just thought I'll be alright. And then the next morning, when my mom said good morning to her, and went to sit next to the other Thai mums, the Thai mum was like, oh, was your daughter crying last night? And mom's like, no, she was still asleep at this time. And then that's when the mum was like, oh yeah, because I think I saw her, you know, sitting outside your door just crying in a white dress. And mom's like, she doesn't own a white dress. And yeah, that's what happened. If I remember vividly, I think around 2 a.m. that night as well. So during the time that mother saw a ghost sitting in front of our hotel door, I'm pretty sure like I felt someone like grab my ankle and like kind of yanked it. And that's when I woke up around that time too. But I remember just being so exhausted from like crying earlier that I just went back to sleep. In my opinion, it was just like a weird encounter for that mother to see. But I do have more like ghost-ish stories as well if you want to know. So hope you guys enjoyed that.
I did not believe in ghosts until Monday night. My whole life, I just have never, I'm just naturally skeptic about like the good spirits and the bad spirits. Like I have a hard time believing in anything, you know? My husband believes in everything. So, you know, he's claimed to have spirits visit him throughout his life, you know, and things like that. But I have just always been like, okay, yeah, I believe that you believe you saw that. But then like, you know, I don't know, I have a hard time with that. Monday night though, I was laying in bed, my bed faces the door, which was open, and then there's the hallway, which is just a wall. Okay, so my husband was playing video games, and sometimes he comes up and checks on me, and then he goes back down. So I see a shadow of what I had no reason other than to believe that was him come check on me and leave. So I called him and I was like, hey, can you come back upstairs? I want to talk to you for a second. And then he was like, oh, no, I'm in the basement. What do you mean? I was never upstairs. And I was like, oh, okay, someone's in the house. Come upstairs, grab your weapon and come upstairs. So he runs upstairs with his weapon. We're looking around the house. This is all happening very quickly. there's nowhere that anyone could have gone in that amount of time or we wouldn't have found them. So, I mean, at this point, I'm not thinking anything paranormal still. I'm just thinking like someone's in my house, so I'm checking on my babies. I looked everywhere in my kids' rooms. My daughter was asleep on my floor because she wasn't feeling good, so I looked in my room. Everything was good. There was no one there. No windows were open. No doors were unlocked. So we go downstairs. We kind of start talking about it. He's already convinced himself that it's paranormal, so he's called his family members that have also seen paranormal things in their lifetime, and he's talked to them, and we go upstairs and we see like where the light was, and I'm like, okay, something else had to have happened. Like something else could have cast that shadow. Like maybe there was a bug fly in front of the light or something. Like let's just mess around with the light, see what could have caused a shadow. The only way that I found that could have cast a shadow the way that it would have had to have been a very, very tall person to cast from where I saw on the wall all the way down. And it would have had to have been standing in the nursery doorway. So I think that's weird, but I'm still, I'm not going to that place. Like it just, I mean, okay, I kind of am now. I guess I should be honest. I kind of am thinking about it, but not like I'm still in denial. Yeah. So I'm looking around. We don't see anything. I don't have like a bad feeling or anything. I feel pretty neutral. People say like that you can feel evil energy. I don't know, but I didn't feel anything. So I was downstairs, kind of just like looking around, and then my husband went into the nursery, starts yelling, "Get the babies!" So he picks up what happened was he saw the spirit that he had seen throughout his childhood standing above our daughter in her crib. And so we were out of that house in 20 seconds in the car on the way to my mom's house. Like that's just, we were gone. We were not risking anything. I'm a skeptic, but I'm not stupid. I'm getting out of there. So then we have animals. So we had to go back in the morning to go feed our animals. He went with my dad. My dad went to go, check things out. I stayed at my mom's house with my babies. They came back. They were like, nothing's weird. We didn't feel anything. All good. So now I'm not worried. We went back at night to feed the animals dinner. We're like, okay, we're going to stay at the house one more time just because, we're still like a little freaked out of what it could have been because I know what I saw. I know that someone was there. Like, I don't know. I know that I saw something. So I'm still a little freaked out. So I go over there with my husband to feed the dog, but I'm not even worried. So I open the door, not even scared. And every cabinet and every drawer in my kitchen was wide open. My husband didn't leave it that way. My dad said that they were all closed when they left. And then I went into each of my rooms, each of like my kids' rooms and my room, and all the drawers were wide open. I went into my bathroom, wide open. My cabinets were wide open. So I was freaked out. I was out of there. We called my parents. They came. All four of us were walking through the house, trying to see like if something was taken, trying to see if like someone had broken into my house. There was nothing taken. There were no like entrances of the home that were left unlocked or like weirdly opened or anything. Any of the valuable stuff in my house was still there. So it didn't look like someone had broken in, but I don't know. So I am feeling weird about it. I do feel, I don't know, like I sound crazy being like, there's a ghost in my house, but I don't know. Like I'm freaked out now. So now what I'm going to do about it is I'm going to go and I'm going to salt the outside of my house. I'm going to go give it a good sage. I'm going to get a religious leader to come bless the home, kind of say a prayer over everything, and we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated. But now I have like my cameras working, and because my cameras were there but they weren't like, I have like a blink camera, and so my notifications and like movement was off. So now I have it on and it'll notify me if there's any movement or activity. I don't know. I feel stupid saying this, but I'm scared. I don't know how to like explain some of that. But yeah, keep you guys updated. Here is my ghost update because I totally forgot to do it. Nothing's really happened though. Like honestly, there was just one thing that happened since the last update, and it was like because we set our cameras up, I could get like notifications of motion, and it kept saying like motion detected in playroom. So I checked it out, and the lights, we left them off and then they were on, and then I got motion detected again and the lights were off again, and so it just kept doing that, like flipping on the switches every once in a while just for one day, and then it was done. Hasn't happened since, and that's like it. Like I wish I had, please don't hit my car. Oh my god, they were just so close. They just almost hit my car. No, but I wish there was more to tell you, but like I don't. I just wish it was more interesting, but there's like nothing now. Like I got my house all blessed up and good. I got lots of sage, so I'm going around like sage in the place. I don't know. I put salt in every room. I don't know what to do. Like I hope it doesn't happen again, but I feel like pretty safe, pretty good. No like spine chilling feelings. I don't know what's in the movies and what's real. So yeah, but that's the update.